giving is not something for special occasions only, for it should become a habit growing out of our desire to live life to the fullest extent. So the fuller life belongs only to the one who scatters every good he has. I'm going to repeat that because that's a good one. So the fuller life belongs only to the one who scatters every good he has. Eric Butterworth wrote in Spiritual Economics, the most important aspect of John 3:16 is, for God so loved the world that he gave. God is the givingness of the universe, and you are created in the image likeness of this divine givingness. Begin to see yourself as a giver. It may be a complete turnaround in your approach to life, where you think give instead of get. You become unblushingly an incurable giver. So join me in giving yourself fully to the truth of this affirmation by speaking it with enthusiasm. The good I desire, I already possess. That which I ask for, I now receive. That which I want and I need, I now have. I celebrate my wonderful life.
Hallelujah.
And so it has been said that your life is God's gift to you, and what you do with your life is your gift to God. So we are all born of original blessing. I want to start there. We are born of original blessing. I'd like to eliminate the idea that we're born of original sin, because if you think about it, we all emanate from the one source, which is infinite good, and we are declared good and very good. And so as we deepen into that awareness that we are born of original blessing, we begin to realize that our life is designed to make a difference. It's already inherent within us. And so this month, we've been using the teaching story of It's a Wonderful Life because it has so many rich spiritual principles embedded in that story, and it just is a good stepping off place, I think, in this season for reinforcing the, uh, the, the inherent qualities of the divine that are in each and every one of us. So the scene that I'm going to be focusing on today begins at Christmas Eve at the home savings and loan that George has inherited from his father. And Uncle Billy comes in, and he was supposed to have delivered an $8,000 deposit. And he doesn't have it, and he doesn't know what happened to it. And so George totally loses it, takes it out on Uncle Billy, and goes onto this rampage because he's aware that this $8,000 deposit that's missing means the bankruptcy of the entire home savings and loan, and not only gloom and doom for his family, but also for his entire community that depends on that particular savings and loan. So he, in again, fear does interesting things to us, doesn't it? For some, people just freak out and they get really afraid and they withdraw. For other people, they just lash out and become angry. And this is what the way that George responded to the whole thing. So he's furious, he's angry, and he's taking it out on his son's teacher. He yells at her, and he takes it out on his family, yelling at his children and his wife. And all of them know this is not George. This is not the way he usually is. He's usually a very kind man. He's someone who cares for the community and who has really extended himself through the years. So this is not like him, and they all begin to start praying for some intervention because this is not like him. And then he leaves his home. He storms to the local bar and runs into the teacher's husband. They get into an argument, into a fight, and then the husband punches him in the nose and knocks him down. And so, the rage just continues to build. He hops into his car. He's been drinking, you can imagine, crashes into a tree, gets out of his car, just barely hobbling out, sees the local bridge, goes up to the bridge, and then begins to think about his life, and has decided that that life would be better off without him. It'd be better off if he'd never been born. How many of us have gotten to that stage where things are just not working in our lives, and we begin to contemplate, maybe life would have been better off without me, and those are some pretty deep, dark, scary places to be. And so there's George. He's contemplating this, and he finally decides to jump. Meanwhile, an angel by the name of Clarence Oddbody has been called to duty to save this man. And so he literally jumps in the water after George, pulls him out, pulls him into the little bridge house, the little watch house or whatever, to help him warm up and to talk to him. And basically, he said to him, I want to show you what life would have been like if you had never been born. And so there was a whole series of events that took place, including his brother would not have existed because his brother, fell through some ice and he saved him. And if George hadn't been around, his brother wouldn't be around. So he saw his brother's gravestone, and he saw that the whole town had been taken over by this very greedy man in the community, and so it was totally unrecognizable. There was, was poverty, and people were into addiction, and I mean, it was just a pretty grim situation all around, because George was not, that's what life would have been like if George hadn't been there. So George came to this incredible discovery of the positive impact that he'd had on life. And so let's tie that back into our own lives. Each and every one of us is a gift of God. Our life is a gift. It's a gift to each other. We each, in our own ways, touch one another, touch other people, do things that support the planet. I mean, there's just and the animals, there's so many different things that all of us do just by being who we are. And so it's time to let go of some of the concepts that we have about what is necessary in order for us to have value, and also to get a little bit of clarity on what it means to be on purpose, to have purpose in our lives. So this thing about purpose, our purpose is very beautifully expressed by what Candace shared, and really all the world's traditions, whether it's Native American traditions, or the indigenous cultures, I should say, the indigenous traditions, or the other larger traditions all over the planet. It all goes back to this. Our common purpose is to express our divine nature. To express our divine nature. That's the gift that we're giving. So as we accept our divine nature, then we discover that our purpose is not about acquisition. Our purpose is about giving of ourselves. And I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about all levels. Extending love, a smile, a handshake, a kind word. Every one of those things matters. They make a difference in our lives. And Eric Butterworth talks about there are two types of people, but I'd really like to say, because I don't think it's like, that extreme necessarily, or it may be, but I think there are times when some of us are mostly givers and there are times when we're takers. It just depends. So I'd really like to say there are two ways of being, givers and takers. And takers think in this way. They think that their value comes from what they get, what they build up, their possessions. And so they're always in the mode of get, 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 always seeking to accumulate whatever it might be, accumulate friends, accumulate um, uh, degrees, accumulate what so there's a feeling of get, get, get. So they plan and they scheme on how to get what they want. Our purpose as a giver, then, is to contribute. There's a sense of, I'm here to contribute. I'm here to make a difference. I have something valuable to offer the planet. I have gifts, I have talents, I have abilities, I have capacities, and I am here to do that, to be that. So then, to stay on purpose, it's important for us to remember our divine nature, that we are sourced in an infinite presence. That source lives within us. That source is inexhaustible, inexhaustible love, inexhaustible peace, inexhaustible joy. That inexhaustible givingness. And of course, that givingness also includes giving to ourselves, too. It means radical self care so that we can give from the overflow. So again, it's an attitude of love. It's the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's that energy of love. It's coming from that place. And when you just start by thinking give, Eric Butterworth says, everything shifts. Everything shifts because we're all energetic beings. And we feel that. Other people feel that. We become energized by coming from that type of attitude. So it's an attitude toward every activity that we're involved in, including our spiritual practice. Our spiritual practice, we're giving back to ourselves. We're supporting ourselves as well as giving to the planet and others when we're in prayer. So I'd like to invite you to say these words after me to really anchor this truth in for us. And just repeat after me. I accept the divinity that resides in me.
I accept the divinity that resides in me.
I accept my inherent value.
I accept my inherent value.
I make a difference
I make a difference
by just giving of myself.
by just giving of myself.
Beautiful. Again, so our purpose and our value are rooted in our divinity. And we give of the love, the peace, the joy, the goodness that we are in our own unique way. Everybody has a unique way of expressing. And so George, by following in his father's footsteps, he was inspired when he saw a photo of his father. It reminded him of the generosity toward the community and toward his family that his father emanated. His intention was to provide a home savings and loan that would help the community prosper, and it was built on those principles. And as a result, the community prospered, and George did too, and his family. So it was a community of caring that was developed as a result of that higher perspective. He was thinking give, and it came through. So as children accept their values so beautifully, don't they? I was just thinking of my grandson Rowan. We were taking care of him the other day because he was recovering from strep, and so he had like one more day that he had to be home, and we said, okay, we'll take him. And so Dan was in the kitchen, and I was in the laundry, and we have a kind of a hallway right between us. So I catch out of the glimpse of my eye this little person moonwalking across and smiling at me. and then doing some dances, and smiling at me. And then he finally and I was laughing, and Dan turns around like, "What are you laughing at?" So then he turned over to Dan and then did this on Dan's side and smiled at him. But these children know their inherent value, and they know that they're there to contribute. Rowan probably saw us looking pretty serious and decided that he would cheer us up. Who knows? But anyway, his entertainment was just so precious and so pure, and it's just a reminder of that. That's our nature. Our nature is to give. From the time that we're really little, we realize that it's so much fun. It feels so good to make somebody laugh, to entertain them, to give of ourselves. It's so beautiful. Jesus said we must become as little children to enter the gates of heaven. What is the metaphysical meaning of that? There's a deeper meaning than the way it looks, because so many of us have been taught that heaven is someplace you go after you die, and yet he said over and over again, the kingdom of heaven is within. So we're talking about a consciousness. So as we allow that childlike nature to come through that just loves to give, loves to be love, loves to just enjoy and be creative and have fun, we enter that kingdom of heaven consciousness that blesses us by lifting our energy and that blesses others. And so it's important to remember that we do make a difference. And just as God is the ever-giving nature of the universe, our nature is to give, to serve, to contribute to the happiness of others. And when we help others prosper, this is the secret to being happy, to being secure, to being prosperous ourselves. And unhappiness comes from desiring to be served or to get something without reciprocation. I'm going to say that again. Unhappiness comes from desiring to be served or to get something without reciprocation. So a focus on getting, then, is the result of a lack of a spiritual awareness of the joy that comes when we offer our gifts, our talents, our knowledge for the purpose of enriching others' lives. I was thinking too, when we try to do everything for children, think about what happens. Or anybody, when we try to do everything for them without allowing them to do for themselves things that they can do for themselves, it erodes their self-esteem. So as we allow children, adults, whoever, to take part in something, and family is community. Family is like a mini community, and we are a community. When we all contribute to the community and give our gifts and talents, there's such a joy in it. It feels so good. It feels so good. And so it's important again to remember that our true source lies within us. And when we give from that inexhaustible source, it actually begins to expand. And that's why we feel more energized as we give of ourselves. So again, life is a giving process. It's also a receiving process. I don't want to undermine. I want to, share the balance of that as well. It's also important to be gracious receivers, because if we all gave and nobody received, then we wouldn't have the law of circulation. So it's really both. And so that attitude of giving generously and also receiving graciously is one that I continue to go back to over and over again, because it's just a reminder that these are the fundamentals of living a wonderful life. And not only living a wonderful life ourselves, but together collaborating, co-creating to create a wonderful life for all of us, for everyone, everywhere. And so it is. Namaste, my friends.
So it is.